This is NHK World, Japan. We now bring you the news from Radio Japan at 11 hours UTC on Thursday, June the 27th. I'm Keith McFarlane.
And I'm Michelle Yamamoto.
In our top stories, Japan's Prime Minister has expressed determination to seek common ground among the countries taking part in the G20 summit in Osaka.
NHK has learned that preparations are underway ahead of the upcoming summit to have participating nations jointly aim to reduce new plastic marine waste to zero by 2050.
And the U.S. President has expressed displeasure over his country's defense agreement with Japan, one of America's key allies. Now, the news in detail. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has expressed his determination to seek common ground among the countries taking part in the G20 summit. Abe spoke to reporters in Tokyo on Thursday before leaving for Osaka, where the summit will be held on Friday and Saturday. Abe said people tend to focus on differences in the international community, but Japan, as the host country, will focus on what nations have in common and what they can agree on. He added that he hopes the G20 can issue a strong message on promoting free trade, leading global economic growth through innovation, rules for the digital economy, contributions to environmental issues, and women's empowerment.
NHK has learned that final preparations are underway ahead of the upcoming G20 summit to have participating nations jointly aim to reduce new plastic marine waste to zero by 2050. Along with discussions on the global economy and trade, tackling plastic marine waste is high on the agenda. Attention will be focused on whether leaders can show unity on the matter. Against this backdrop, efforts are being made to see that the leaders endorse the so-called Osaka Blue Ocean Vision. The aim is to reduce ocean plastic waste to zero by improving waste management and exploiting technology. Environment and energy ministers of the G20 nations met in Nagano Prefecture, central Japan, earlier this month to discuss the problem of plastic waste that finds its way into the sea. Ministers endorsed a joint statement that calls for the creation of an international framework for countries to regularly report on their efforts to reduce plastic waste.
The Prime Ministers of Japan and India have agreed to strengthen bilateral cooperation in the security sector. Shinzo Abe and his Indian counterpart Narendra Modi held their 13th summit on Thursday afternoon in Osaka on the eve of the opening of the G20 meeting there. Abe told Modi that he wants to raise the level of Japan-India relations, which he said have the potential to be world-beating. Modi said he has high hopes for the success of the summit because of Japan's leadership as chair. The two agreed to work together to realize a free and open Indo-Pacific region by holding a meeting of their country's foreign and defense ministers soon. They also agreed to speed up discussions on introducing Japan-made US-2 rescue flying boats in India. The Prime Ministers confirmed that more effort will be made so that Abe can visit India this year. In a meeting with Senegal's President Macky Sall earlier in the day, Abe and the West African leader agreed to work together toward achieving success at the Tokyo International Conference on African Development, or TICAD, in Yokohama in August.
Traffic authorities have set up road controls in Osaka City ahead of the Group of 20 summit. The restrictions are to be in place on two expressways from Thursday to Sunday. The Osaka Loop Expressway could be closed off from early in the morning to late at night. Inbound lanes of the other motorway linking Osaka to Kansai International Airport will be closed on Thursday and Friday, and the outbound lanes on Saturday and Sunday. Traffic control will also be implemented on roads linked to the loop and near hotels where the G20 leaders are staying. Security has also been heightened at the airport, where G20 leaders and other officials are expected to arrive on Thursday. Some entrances to a terminal building have been closed. Checkpoints have been set up at entrances that remain open, with police inspecting the boarding passes and luggage of all passengers. The measures have led to long queues for passengers, but airport officials have reported no major congestion so far.
U.S. President Donald Trump has expressed displeasure over his country's defense agreement with Japan, one of America's key allies. Trump held a telephone interview with a U.S. media outlet on Wednesday before heading for the western Japanese city of Osaka to attend the G20 summit. When questioned about what he wants to accomplish through sealing bilateral agreements with Japan, India, and Southeast Asian nations, Trump replied with the following comment. Almost all countries in this world take tremendous advantage of the United States. It's unbelievable. Trump went on to comment on the U.S.-Japan security alliance, saying the following. If Japan is attacked, we will fight World War III. We will go in and protect them with our lives. But if we are attacked, Japan doesn't have to help us at all. They can watch on a Sony television the attack. The remarks come after Bloomberg News reported earlier this week that Trump had mused about withdrawing from the defense agreement in a private conversation, calling it unfair. A White House official told NHK that the writer of the report has been told it is inaccurate.
The Japanese government's top spokesperson says the obligations of Japan and the United States are balanced under the bilateral security treaty and the agreement is not one-sided. Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga made a comment to reporters on Thursday when asked about U.S. President Donald Trump's remarks expressing displeasure over the pact. Suga said a Japan-U.S. joint statement issued in February 2017 confirms that the bilateral alliance is the cornerstone of peace, prosperity, and freedom in the Asia-Pacific region. Suga said the Japan-U.S. Security Treaty forms the core of the alliance. He said there has been no talk whatsoever about revising the treaty with the U.S. government, and he has confirmed this with the White House. Suga said that Article 5 of the treaty stipulates that Japan and the U.S. will act to meet the common danger when either party is attacked in Japanese territory. Suga said that under Article 6 of the treaty, U.S. forces are granted use of Japanese facilities and areas for the purpose of contributing to the security of Japan. He said that overall the obligations of both countries are balanced and the treaty is not one-sided.
The leading makers of video game consoles are asking the U.S. administration to remove their products from a list of Chinese imports subject to possible tariffs. Microsoft, Nintendo of America, and Sony Interactive Entertainment have jointly sent a letter to the office of the U.S. Trade Representative. The letter notes that more than 96% of the consoles imported into the U.S. last year were Chinese-made. The administration of U.S. President Donald Trump is in the process of levying additional tariffs of as much as 25% on $300 billion worth of Chinese goods. The companies say video games are a core part of the fabric of American entertainment culture. They say additional tariffs will likely put a new video game console out of reach for many American families. They also say the extra duties would have an enormous impact on their industry, which employs many Americans and contributes to technological innovation in the U.S. U.S. President Donald Trump is scheduled to hold talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Saturday on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Japan.
You're listening to Radio Japan of the NHK World Japan Network. A tropical storm off the east coast of Japan's southern main island of Kyushu is set to bring heavy rain to much of the country. Japan's meteorological agency says rain clouds have developed over the Kansai region in the western part of the country as a result of inflows of warm, moist air. Tanabe City in Wakayama Prefecture had almost 40 millimeters of rain between 5 and 6 p.m. on Thursday. The storm and a low-pressure system near the Sea of Japan are expected to move north in the coming hours, making atmospheric conditions unstable over the wide area. Western Japan can expect downpours and localized thunderstorms over the course of Thursday night. Eastern and northeastern Japan are likely to experience similar conditions into Friday. The agency is urging residents to stay on the alert for mudslides, flooding in low-lying areas, and overflowing rivers. Caution is also advised with regard to strong winds, high waves, lightning strikes, and tornadoes.
A UN expert on freedom of expression has submitted a report expressing concern about media independence in Japan. UN Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Opinion and Expression, David Kay, submitted the report on Wednesday at an annual meeting of the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva. Kay is a professor at the University of California, Irvine. In the report, Kay noted instances of Japanese government officials directly or indirectly pressuring members of the media. He said the state secrecy law and other restrictions have had a chilling effect on reporting that is critical of the government and on investigative reporting. Kay submitted a similar report to the UN Human Rights Council 2 years ago. He urged the government to review the Broadcast Act to strengthen media independence by removing the legal basis for government interference. He says there have been no apparent moves to this end. Ken Okaniwa, ambassador of Japan's permanent mission to the international organizations in Geneva, objected to Kay's findings. He said Japan's constitution fully guarantees free expression. Okaniwa said the Japanese government acts to protect basic values, including freedom and democracy.
5 Japanese automakers are considering investing in a joint venture that plans to provide next-generation mobility services, including ride-hailing using self-driving cars. Sources say executives at Mazda, Suzuki, Subaru, Daihatsu, and Isuzu are considering taking stakes in Monet Technologies. Toyota and SoftBank founded the company last year. Monet has already received investment funds from automakers Honda and Hino. Global competition in mobility services is intensifying, with Google and other IT firms now involved. Analysts say Japanese carmakers hope the venture will give them a competitive edge. They believe that the project will help them share driving and other data so they can lay the groundwork for launching mobility services such as ride-sharing and delivery.
A group from Indonesia has visited Japan to learn about how people living near volcanoes prepare for possible eruptions. The Wednesday event was held near Mount Fuji, which is a dormant volcano and Japan's highest peak. Both Japan and Indonesia are dotted with volcanoes. The Mount Fuji Research Institute hosted the group as part of a program run by the Japan International Cooperation Agency. The institute has years of experience of teaching people how to respond to volcanic eruptions. Event participants included school teachers. They visited an elementary school at the foot of Mount Fuji and observed a lesson for 5th graders taught by Mitsuhiro Yoshimoto, a researcher at the institute. Students were shown how lava flows might course down the flanks of the mountain with a 3-dimensional model. Participants from the Southeast Asian nation also talked about their experience of the eruption of Indonesia's Mount Merapi in 2010.
NHK has learned that the organizers of next year's Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics are planning to allow spectators to take drinks in plastic bottles into venues. The games will be held at a time when the city's temperatures are extremely high, and organizers are working on ways to prevent people from suffering heat stroke. In recent Olympics and Paralympics, spectators have been banned from taking liquids in plastic bottles into venues for security reasons. In Tokyo, spectators will be allowed to have a certain amount of liquid, and their beverage will have to be made available for sampling. Measures to prevent heat stroke are considered crucial, as the condition could put spectators' lives at risk. Visitors can buy beverages from official sponsor companies at the venues, but they might have to wait in line to buy them.
Finally, let's take another look at the top stories at this hour. Japan's Prime Minister has expressed determination to seek common ground among G20 countries. NHK has learned that preparations are underway to have G20 nations aim for zero plastic marine waste by 2050. And the U.S. President has expressed displeasure over his country's defense agreement with Japan. And that was the news from Radio Japan of the NHK World Japan Network. I'm Keith McFarlane.
And I'm Michelle Yamamoto.